two games on Saturday. First, let's hit the Rams and the Packers. Guys, this is sitting as a 6.5-point favorite in favor of the Packers, a total of 45.5. And this is the rare scenario where we are in agreement basically across the board. DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, MGM, all 45.5, all 6.5 right now. This thing did open at 7 and went to 6.5. And Brad, I'll start with you on this one. I put a 7 in my account because I thought that this thing would go over the touchdown, not under the touchdown. And it was very shocking to me that it moved so early because we did not have any sort of definitive news on Aaron Donald at the time. We didn't know what was going on with the quarterback situation with the Rams. We didn't know the Cooper Kupp or the Cam Akers situation, anything like that. And this thing moved a 0.5 point in favor of the Rams. And so did you make anything of that? Did you think that maybe the line just opened too large? Or, why did this thing instantly move when there were still so many question marks around this Rams team?
I think if you modelling this game off the season numbers, you probably get around 6.5 is what I've seen from, quite sharp people. But as you said, I wouldn't be surprised to see it go back up, perhaps. I would say on the Aaron Donald stuff, it sounds like he's going to play and he will be fine. Business as usual for him. The Jared Goff stuff, obviously we know he's going to start. I think that was confirmed yesterday. And I would say that's a negative. We discussed this last week. He came in and was awful in relief. He still has that broken thumb, and now he's going in this cold weather. So I think if you're just modelling out, probably 6.5 is probably a fair number. But I think when you start to get into the more, the softer bit parts of the matchup, like Goff in the, in 18-degree weather with a broken thumb, trying to throw in that, then I think you start to get more towards the Packers, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it tick back up. Just a quick number: Goff in games below 40 degrees, he's minus 0.17 EPA per drop back on about 200 snaps, and then or in a dome he's plus 0.8. So it's a fairly steep drop off. Whereas Rodgers is just as good as he is everywhere else in his career. So, yes, he's a real SoCal kid, isn't he? I think he went to high school in Southern California, went to college in California, now plays pro football in California, Goff. So I think the cold is probably the biggest factor in the game for me.
And Brett, this is, you live in a very, cold weather spot, and you know how brutal it can get whenever it gets bad. And, of course, we know Green Bay being the ultimate kind of cold weather spot in the NFL. We talked about home field advantage, and actually it's been proven. I mean, I saw a chart yesterday. Home field advantage meant absolutely nothing this year in the NFL. Like, literally meant nothing. Not a single point, not even a single 0.5 point. But I think we could all agree, as Brad just said, if there were to be a home field advantage that was left in the playoffs, it would probably be Green Bay in the bitter, bitter cold in this scenario where they have a dome team coming up there. We have a California kid at quarterback coming up there, a warm weather team coming up there. It's while there won't be, whatever, I think they allow a few thousand fans or something. So it's not going to be fans that are giving you the home field advantage. But I do believe, and I am, maybe I'm just a sucker here, but I actually do believe that the one home field advantage left in this thing is the fact that you're playing within Green Bay against a dome warm weather team, and especially a dome warm weather quarterback.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm with you here. I don't think it's being baked in the line enough. I think the lack of home field across the entire season is certainly being factored into this more than it should. I think there is a not significant edge here for Green Bay playing at home, but I think the weather does play a factor because Goff has shown, as Brad already laid out, he's not performed well in these environments. And, now he's got the thumb issue, and this offense just is really just kind of dragging right now with him. And you got to play catch up with Aaron Rodgers, and I think it puts him in a bad spot. I think if you want to bet Green Bay, do it now before it gets back to 7. I don't see any way this doesn't get back to 7 again.
Brad, so obviously one of the the biggest matchups here in this game is going to be the Jaylen Ramsey, Devonta Adams battle. If you take a look here, the Packers have done a really good job of moving Devonta Adams around and try to create confusion, mismatches. He ran 30% of his routes, actually. So nearly a third of his routes out of the slot this past season. But Jalen Ramsey is one of the few cornerbacks that does travel. So Jalen Ramsey, if you look into his statistics this year, actually covered about 16% of the snaps out of the slot this year, because that was when he was in shadow coverage and when those receivers were moving into the slot as well. And so we've got an offense that understands the importance of moving Adams around, trying to mess with the defenses, not giving them the same look all the time. But then you also have a shadow corner that will, like a lot of these shadow guys, whenever we hear the shadow coverage stuff, people don't really realize that the shadow corners don't travel into the slot, right? Like these guys stay on the outside, and when these receivers go into the slot, they're still getting covered by somebody else. Ramsey is a dude that does travel, so we're going to see a true, matchup battle here between Adams and Ramsey. Now, my personal opinion, I'm really interested to see what you think in this, is, as good as Ramsey is, and he is definitely good. We watched him shut down DK Metcalf multiple times this year in shadow coverage. We've seen him shut down a couple of other receivers this year in shadow coverage. Devonta Adams, to me, is just a different animal, and that connection that him and Rodgers have is just a different animal. I mean, we see it whenever we watch these Packers games and these replays time and time again, right? Like, Rodgers has the ball in the air before Devonta Adams has even thought about coming out of his break. And then the ball is just like sitting right there the second the dude turns around. I think Ramsey in this matchup, I don't think he's going to get necessarily torched, but I don't think you can look at this and say like, oh, well, Jalen Ramsey's going to be on Devonta Adams, so that's, that's going to take him out of the game or anything. Like, I think you're going to see a pretty typical Devonta Adams performance here.
Yes, I do wonder if the matchup might be kind of overstated to an extent. So Doug Farrar over at USA Today and For the Win, he did a great job breaking this down this week, and his belief is that Adams, the routes he runs, kind of these a lot of hitches, a lot of quick out routes, that they are what give Ramsey problems. Ramsey's good because he's a big, strong athlete, great tackler. He's good against other big, strong athletes like DK Metcalf last few weeks. He's probably less good against these kind of precise, crisp route runners, with these little jab steps to send him the wrong way. So he reckons that if he knows that and we know that, Brandon Staley is going to know that, and he is going to leave Ramsey maybe in zone. I think the Rams, they play zone more than anyone else in the league, and they play man less than anyone else in the league. So they either just leave Ramsey on his side of the field, or they put Ramsey on Tonyan. They put him on tight ends a few times this year, just erase him from the game plan. And then you put Darius Williams, kind of the smaller, more quick twitch corner. You put him on Adams and give him safety help. Because basically the only way to defend Adams this year has been a safety over the top, and play a lot of cover 2 and then just give help. So I suspect that's probably what we'll see. We'll see a lot of cover 2 and just don't get beat deep, double Adams, and if they want to march up and down the field with 12-play drives, they can, but we can't let them beat us quickly. So I think that also kind of plays into the under a bit. And just one more thing on that. The other thing Mr. Farrar was talking about, very good analyst if anyone wants to go read his stuff, is I guess the two worst games that Green Bay has played this year. So the Bucks and the Panthers. Obviously, I think they scored 20 against the Panthers at home, which you wouldn't expect, and then they got blown out by the Bucks. What a lot of what they were doing is just disguising A, who was coming, and B, who was dropping into what zone. And that's something the Rams do quite well. They're happy to drop into zones and like pass off routes to different coverages. So I think, as I say, they're just going to drop a lot of men, trust Donald to do his damage against a Packers line missing their best left tackle, who might not have the communication they normally have, and just let that front foot try and win, and then just play coverage behind it. So I think it might be a bit of a lower scorer in that sense.
Brett, we're looking at the number 1 offense, DVOA, the number 1 offense, Pro Football Focus, against the number 4 defense, DVOA, the number 1 offense, Pro Football Focus. There's no weakness here for the Rams whenever you really try to dig in. They are, number 4 against the pass, DVOA, number 1 against the pass, according to Pro Football Focus, number 3 against the run, number 4 against the run. They get sacks, they get pressure, they get the whole 9 yards here. So we're not really finding a weakness on that side of the ball. So it really does come down to, I know one of the big matchups outside of the Devonta Adams, Jalen Ramsey would just be the overall, can Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd get pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers only faced pressure on 17% of his dropbacks this year. That was the third lowest rate in the league, which allowed him to throw as many deep balls as he did. You know, he threw 14% of his passes were 20-plus yards down the field. Second highest rate in the league, by the way, second to Tom Brady. Again, we go like we don't think Tom Brady is this bombing out offense or whatever, but it was. He was through the most passes of 20-plus yards at the highest rate down the league. But 12 touchdowns, no interceptions on those deep balls for Aaron Rodgers this year. But the Rams defense was fourth in the league against these 20-plus yards passes down the field. You know, I'm sure Jaylen Ramsey has a lot to do with that as well. And of course the pressure that they put on a guy that maybe doesn't give him that extra half a second he needs to really put the ball accurately down the field in these situations. So, you know, when you break this down, what do you think this Rams defense, what do you think this Rams defense is going to have to do for this to be a game where we're talking about, you know, the Rams being in the mix here? Like, do you think that they have what it takes, or do you think at the end of the day this is an offensive league, and as good as defenses are, really elite offenses tend to win?
Yeah, I don't know that they do have enough of what it takes to beat Rodgers here. I mean, if you look at what this defense has faced over this season, yeah, the metrics all look great. Great note here from Adam Chernoff. If you look at the quarterbacks the Rams have faced this year, Wentz, Kyle Allen, Nick Foles, Mullins, Streveler, none of those quarterbacks are still the starter of the team, or finished the year as a starter of the team. They faced a lot of backup quarterbacks this year, which helped them out a lot in some of these metrics and won them a lot of football games. Mm. And by the way, they had a healthy Aaron Donald for all those games. And, Donald is trending toward playing this week, but he's not going into this game fully healthy. That's going to matter because they do struggle to get pressure to begin with, and you have to do that against Aaron Rodgers. I think the only thing that slows Green Bay down here is their pass catchers. If the Rams do bracket Devonta Adams and force these other guys to beat them, which they surely are going to try to do, will the MVSs and the Allen Lazards and the Tanyans be able to make plays? Mm-hmm. If they can't, then the Rams are going to be in this football game. But it's hard for me to back the Rams and Jared Goff here. I just can't trust him to do enough on the road in these freezing cold conditions. And, these are the spots we love to fade Jared Goff. And I think anything short of 7 here, I think you have to back Green Bay.
Yeah, this was, that was my thinking. I thought this was going to get on the other side of 7. I put a 7 in my account. Obviously, I have the worst of it right now. But I don't feel terrible about it. Obviously I'd love to have the 6.5, and maybe I'll add a little bit here when it's all said and done. But I like the Packers a lot in this situation. I like the Packers in a teaser. If you're a teaser player as well, I see very few paths to just outright victory for this Rams team. So just getting it to where the Packers only have to basically win because you're taking a 6.5 down to a half a point is a pretty good scenario as well for me. Brad, final thoughts on this one. Like I said, I've got a 7 in the account. Wish it would have been a 6.5, but I just read the market wrong here. I don't have a play on the total, but I do. I am in your camp that if I were to play the total, I would probably be leaning towards the under. You have to assume at least maybe a first half under because the Rams are certainly going to try to run the ball in the first half. Maybe they have to abandon that in the second half because of the way that things, the game plays out. Maybe it gets out of control or something, but you have to assume they're going to not let Jared Goff get them in a situation where the game is lost in the first half.
Yes, my concern with the first half under, so the Packers have got the best script in the NFL, and then the Rams are right up there as well. So I probably prefer the full game just because I really don't see Goff moving it whatsoever. As you say, they probably will be able to run the ball. The Packers probably like you to run the ball in general. They play the most dime in the league. They play a lot of nickel as well. So, Akers is going to get 25 touches and they're going to have success. As I say, I did bet the 7, but the more I look at it, the more I feel I probably prefer the under 45.5. Just because I think you look at who the Packers have played this year. There's not many good pass rushes in here, And when Rodgers has faced a good pass rush and he has had to hold on to the ball and then feel that pressure, he's not been quite the same quarterback. And as I think with that offensive line injury at left tackle, I think he will feel Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd in his face. And I think we see more kind of the 20 points they put up against the Panthers than the 40 they put up against everyone else this year. So yeah, my favourite play is the under 45.5.
Brett, as we put a bow on this thing, yeah, that's where me and Brad stand. What are you thinking here on the side, and do you have any thoughts on the total?
Definitely on Green Bay. I'm gonna get that one in my account today, as long as I can still get the 6.5. I don't really have a lean on the total. I guess the case for the over is Green Bay scripting its way out to an early lead and then just kind of sitting back in prevent in the second half. We've seen that from them a few times this year. I do expect Green Bay to win this game by more than a touchdown. So I do think that could happen more often than not. So I guess that's the case for the over here.
Yeah, and we should mention Cooper Kupp is questionable for this game. If for whatever reason it comes game time and Cooper Kupp is not able to go, I'm even more in love with a Packers bet there. Cooper Kupp, the kind of safety blanket security guy, chain mover for Jared Goff, the guy that goes and finds the sticks and helps them get first downs and stuff like that. He's not able to go. That would be a very big boost for me on the other side of all of this. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I don't have any props in this one. That being said, I do have a lean towards overs on Devonta Adams. I think it is artificially suppressed here because of that matchup that he's going to get, but it's sitting at 75.5 yards, and I think he gets 85, 90 yards 8 times out of 10 in this contest, just based on volume alone. And even if they do, like we said, play zone or something like that against these teams, he's a savvy enough, good enough receiver. He'll go find holes in the zones. And like I said, Aaron Rodgers and him have no problem connecting on things. So if anything, I do have a lean towards the over on receiving yards for Devonta Adams at 75.5.